Don't be ridiculous. Why would we waste money on your debutante ball when you don't even try to look presentable? Mom's words cut through me like a knife as I stood in our living room, my hands trembling at my sides. My twin sister Vanessa sat smugly on the couch, already flipping through designer gown catalogs for her own upcoming celebration. But it's my 16th birthday too, I protested, my voice smaller than I intended. We're twins. It's supposed to be for both of us. Isabella, my father sighed, not even looking up from his newspaper. Be reasonable. These events are about making connections, finding suitable matches. It's just a matter of investment. Paying for yours would be a waste of money. I fought back tears as my mother nodded in agreement. Vanessa is the pretty one, sweetheart. Well, you have other qualities. You should understand the difference by now. My name is Isabella Murder, and at 16 I learned exactly where I stood in my family's hierarchy. While my twin sister Vanessa was groomed to be the family beauty, destined for a strategic marriage to elevate our middle-class status, I was the afterthought, the plain one who needed to be realistic about her prospects. We weren't wealthy, but my parents were determined to invest every spare dollar into Vanessa's social debut. I wanted what any teenage girl wanted, to feel valued, to be treated as an equal, especially by my own parents. But standing between me and that simple desire was the unwavering belief that beauty was the only currency worth having in a woman. My parents had decided long ago which daughter was the better investment, and no amount of academic achievement or character development on my part seemed to change their calculation. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom we shared and stared at my reflection. Vanessa and I were identical in many ways, same chestnut hair, same hazel eyes, same heart-shaped face. But somewhere along the way, my parents had convinced everyone, including themselves, that subtle differences made her the pretty twin and me the smart one, as if we couldn't possibly be both. When I emerged an hour later, I overheard my parents in their bedroom, their voices carrying through the thin walls of our modest Minneapolis home. We should start looking at college options for Isabella, my father was saying. Something practical, affordable. Agreed, my mother replied. We'll need to save everything else for Vanessa's wedding fund. With the right introduction at her debut, who knows? She might not even need college. I pressed my back against the wall, a chill running through me. This wasn't just about a birthday party. They were plotting our entire futures along the same divided lines, and the gap between our paths was far wider than I had realized. The disparity in how my parents treated Vanessa and me wasn't new, though it had become more pronounced as we approached adulthood. Looking back, the signs were always there. Vanessa received new clothes while I got hand-me-downs. She took dance lessons while I was told the library was free. Her academic mediocrity was excused while my achievements were expected. I coped by throwing myself into my studies. If I couldn't be the pretty one, I'd be exceptional in other ways. By 16, I had already mapped out my path. Top of my class, scholarship to a prestigious university, then law school. When Vanessa was shopping for prom dresses, I was researching internships. When she was perfecting her makeup techniques, I was mastering debate strategies. Our parents saw my academic focus as appropriate for someone with my limitations, never realizing it was born from necessity, rather than natural inclination. They didn't see how I stayed awake until midnight studying, how I saved my lunch money to buy used textbooks, or how I volunteered at the local courthouse to build my resume. You're so lucky you don't have to worry about your appearance, Vanessa said once, as if she were complimenting me. Mom and Dad expect me to look perfect all the time. You get to just be yourself. Her words revealed how completely she had bought into their narrative. In her mind, our parents' favoritism was a burden to her, not a privilege. She didn't understand that their investment in her appearance came at the cost of investing in her character or intellect. Despite everything, I didn't resent Vanessa. Not really. She was a product of our parents' making, just as I was. On rare occasions, when our parents weren't around, we shared moments of genuine sisterhood. She would confess her insecurities, and I would admit my envy of the attention she received. These brief connections made me believe that beneath the competition our parents fostered, we might still have a chance at a real relationship. My Aunt Catherine was the only adult who seemed to see through the family dynamic. During a rare visit when I was 15, she pulled me aside after witnessing a particularly cutting remark from my mother about my appearance. "Your parents think they're setting you both up for success, but they're making a terrible mistake," she whispered. "Beauty fades, Isabella. Intelligence, determination, empathy, these are investments that appreciate over time." Her words had sustained me through the hardest days, but as the preparations for Vanessa's debutante ball consumed our household, even Aunt Catherine's wisdom felt like cold comfort. Still, I clung to it, hoping that somewhere down the line my parents would realize what they had done to both of us. The night of Vanessa's debutante ball arrived in a flurry of tulle and perfume. My parents had spared no expense. The venue was the Grand Hotel Ballroom. The guest list included the city's most influential families, and Vanessa's dress alone cost more than my entire college application fees combined. "Isabella, make yourself useful and help your sister with her hair," my mother called, barely glancing at me as she fussed with Vanessa's makeup. I dutifully took the curling iron, meeting my sister's eyes in the mirror. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of discomfort there, but it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. "You'll come to the ball, right?" Vanessa asked, her voice unusually soft. Before I could answer, my mother cut in. "Isabella will be helping the catering staff. We need someone to keep an eye on things, and it's good experience for her. Real-world skills." My hands froze mid-curl. "What? I thought I was attending as a guest." Mom's laugh was light and dismissive. "Don't be silly. These events are expensive enough with one daughter participating. Besides, the Hendersons' son will be there. He's Yale-bound, perfect for networking for your college applications." The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't just being denied my own celebration. I was being relegated to the role of servant at my twins. I had accepted not having my own debutante ball, had made peace with wearing a simple dress from the department store rather than a custom gown, had even rehearsed a toast celebrating my sister. But this was humiliation designed to reinforce the hierarchy. "I'm not going to work as a server at my own sister's party," I said, setting down the curling iron. "Don't make a scene," my father warned, appearing in the doorway. "We've already told the catering manager you'll be there. They've adjusted their staffing accordingly." "You did this without even asking me?" "It's not like you had other plans," my mother replied, "and the experience will look good on your resume." I looked to Vanessa for support, but she averted her eyes, suddenly fascinated by her manicure. Her silence was the final betrayal. I left without another word, retreating to my bedroom where I sat on the edge of my bed, trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. Through the wall, I could hear the continued preparations, the excited chatter, the compliments, the last-minute adjustments. Later that evening, dressed in the black pants and white shirt my parents had laid out for me, I stood in the kitchen of the Grand Hotel, watching through the service door as my sister made her entrance down the grand staircase. The gathered crowd applauded, my parents beamed with pride, and photographs flashed. "Family of the debutante?" asked one of the actual catering staff, noticing my fixed stare. "No," I replied, something hardening inside me. "Just the help." That night, as I carried trays of champagne past guests who didn't recognize me as the honoree's twin, I made a silent vow. I would never again allow my parents to define my worth. This humiliation would be the last they would ever inflict on me. The Monday after Vanessa's debutante ball, I walked into the school counselor's office with a plan. If my parents wouldn't invest in my future, I would have to create opportunities for myself. "I'd like to graduate early," I told Mrs. Winters, sliding my meticulous research across her desk. "I've calculated the credits I need, and with summer courses and extra classes, I can finish by December instead of May." Mrs. Winters reviewed my proposal, her eyebrows rising. "This is quite ambitious, Isabella. May I ask why?" "The sooner I graduate, the sooner I can start college and become self-sufficient," I replied, the humiliation of the ball still raw. "I've researched scholarship opportunities and early admission programs. I just need your help making it happen." To my relief, Mrs. Winters became my advocate. Within weeks, I was enrolled in additional courses and weekend programs. My days started at dawn and ended long after sunset, but each completed assignment felt like a step toward freedom. My parents, predictably, were less than supportive. "This is unnecessary," my father argued when I explained my new schedule. "You're pushing yourself too hard. No one expects you to compete with your sister's social success." "I'm not competing with Vanessa," I replied evenly. "I'm securing my future." "What future?" "You're 16, my mother scoffed. "Your father and I have already discussed your college options. There's a nice state school that would be perfectly adequate for someone with your practical outlook." "I'm applying to top-tier universities," I stated firmly, "and I'm going to get in." My mother exchanged a look with my father, a mixture of amusement and pity. "With what money, Isabella? Those schools cost a fortune, and we've been clear about our financial priorities." "I'll get scholarships," I said, refusing to back down. "I've already been in contact with several programs." "And if you don't?" my father challenged. "We've allocated our savings for Vanessa's future. You've always been the practical one. Be practical now." Their united front was infuriating, but not surprising. What I hadn't expected was Vanessa's reaction when she found me researching application fees late one night. "They'll never let you do it, you know," she said, leaning against my doorframe. "They have everything planned out already. You're supposed to go to community college, then transfer somewhere cheap and respectable. Nothing flashy." I looked up from my laptop. "Is that what they've told you?" "Among other things," she shrugged. "They need to save money for my wedding, for when I meet the right guy. That's the big investment now that the ball is over." The casual way she revealed their long-term discrimination made my stomach turn. "And what about your education?" I asked. "Oh, I'll take some classes," she replied dismissively. "Maybe interior design or something fun. Nothing intense like what you want to do." For a moment, I felt a flash of sympathy for Vanessa. She was as much a prisoner of their expectations as I was, just in a gilded cage rather than a plain one. My early graduation plan faced another setback when I returned home one day to find my school acceptance letter package, carefully hidden in my underwear drawer, spread open on the kitchen table. My mother sat there, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Harvard, Yale, Columbia," she read, her voice cold. "These application fees alone could buy Vanessa's prom dress. You spent your savings on this fantasy?" "It's not a fantasy," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have the grades, the test scores, the extracurriculars." "What you don't have is our permission," my father interrupted, entering the kitchen. "Or our financial support. This ends now, Isabella." I'd expected resistance, but not sabotage. As I gathered my dismantled future from the table, I realized I had underestimated how determined they were to keep me in my assigned place. What I had thought was mere favoritism was actually something more insidious. They weren't just building Vanessa up. They were actively holding me down. The day my acceptance letters arrived, I wasn't home to receive them. I'd begun staying late at school, using the library computers to check application portals daily. When I saw "Congratulations" on the Harvard portal, I nearly collapsed in the quiet study area. Full scholarship. The words blurred through my tears. I printed the acceptance letter and tucked it carefully into my backpack, along with similar letters from Yale and Columbia, all with substantial financial aid packages. The validation was overwhelming after years of being told I wasn't worth the investment. I had a decision to make. Part of me wanted to rush home and wave the letters in my parents' faces, proof that their assessment of my worth had been wrong all along, but experience had taught me caution. I needed a plan that wouldn't give them a chance to sabotage me again. That evening, I stopped by Aunt Catherine's apartment. "I knew you could do it," she said, embracing me after reading the letters. "Have you told your parents?" "Not yet," I admitted. "I'm afraid they'll find a way to stop me." She nodded, understanding immediately. "You're 18 now, Isabella. Legally, they can't prevent you from going." "But they control all my documents. birth certificate, social security card, everything I'd need to register. Aunt Catherine's expression shifted. Actually, they don't. She disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a sealed envelope. After the debutante ball incident, I prepared for this day. I've spent the last 2 years obtaining duplicates of all your essential documents. I stared at her, stunned. How did you— I'm still your legal guardian on paper, she explained. Your parents named me as backup when you girls were born, and they never changed it. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to give you false hope, but I've also been saving for you. She handed me a bank statement showing an account in my name with nearly $25,000. It's not enough for full tuition, but with your scholarships, it's more than enough, I whispered, my hands trembling. Aunt Catherine, I don't know how to thank you. Just excel, she said simply. That's all the thanks I need. As I left her apartment, clutching the envelope of documents and the account information, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time, my future was truly in my hands. But the universe wasn't done with surprises. When I arrived home, I found Vanessa sitting alone in the dark living room. Where have you been? She asked, her voice strangely flat. At the library, I replied automatically. She held up 3 envelopes, my college acceptance letters. The physical copies had arrived while I was out. These came today, she said. I intercepted them before Mom and Dad got home. My heart sank. Vanessa, please. Harvard, Yale, Columbia, she read, her voice breaking slightly. All with scholarships, full ride at Harvard. I reached for the letters, but she pulled them back. Did you know, she continued, that I applied to colleges too? State schools, nothing fancy. I got in, but when I told Mom and Dad, they said it wasn't part of the plan. That the money was better spent on my social connections than on unnecessary education. I stared at her, struggling to process this revelation. You wanted to go to college? Of course I did, she snapped, tears welling in her eyes. Do you think I enjoy being treated like some prize heifer being groomed for market, having my entire worth tied to whether I can attract a wealthy husband? The realization hit me like a tidal wave. All these years, I'd thought Vanessa was their willing accomplice in my marginalization. I'd never considered that she might be trapped in her own way, crushed under the weight of different but equally damaging expectations. I didn't know, I said quietly. No, you didn't, she replied, wiping her eyes. Just like I never knew you were applying to Ivy League schools. They've kept us so focused on competing with each other that we never saw how they were controlling us both. She handed me the acceptance letters. Here, take these and go. One of us should escape at least. 2 months later, with graduation behind me and summer fading into autumn, I was preparing to leave for Harvard. My parents had moved from outright opposition to grudging acknowledgement, though they maintained that I was making a mistake. Liberal arts is a waste, my father reminded me over dinner. You should have at least chosen something practical like accounting. I'm majoring in political science with a pre-law track, I replied for the 10th time, and I have a full scholarship. It's hardly a waste. We'll see, my mother said with a tight smile. When Vanessa is settled with a good husband, you might regret all this independence. Vanessa, who had been pushing food around her plate, looked up sharply. Can we not talk about my hypothetical husband for one meal? Isabella's about to leave for Harvard. Harvard. Our parents exchanged looks but said nothing more. Since our late-night conversation, Vanessa and I had formed a fragile alliance. She had helped me pack in secret, storing boxes at Aunt Catherine's until I was ready to leave. In return, I'd been researching how she might pursue education later, perhaps after she turned 21, and had more legal control over her life. The night before my departure, as I finished packing my remaining belongings, my father knocked on my bedroom door. We need to discuss finances, he said, sitting on the edge of my bed without invitation. My scholarship covers tuition, room, and board, I replied warily. Aunt Catherine's helping with books and living expenses. Yes, well, about that, he began, his expression shifting to the one he used for serious financial discussions. Your mother and I have been thinking. Now that you're going to this fancy school, you'll have connections to important people. It would be good for you to maintain ties with the family. I waited, sensing the real purpose of this conversation approaching. We've invested a lot in you over the years, he continued. Your upbringing, your education through high school. It's only fair that once you're established, you help support the family in return, especially your sister. I stared at him, incredulous. Are you asking me to pay you back for raising me? Not immediately, he clarified, as if that made it better. But down the line, when you're working as a lawyer, we expect you to contribute. Family helps family. The audacity was breathtaking. After years of telling me I wasn't worth investing in, they were now trying to stake a claim on my future earnings. I'll think about it, I said neutrally, unwilling to spark a fight the night before my departure. My father seemed satisfied with this non-commitment and left me to my packing. As soon as he was gone, I texted Vanessa. Need to talk. Meet at Catherine's tomorrow before I leave. The next morning, I loaded my belongings into Aunt Catherine's car. My parents watched from the porch, their expressions a mixture of resentment and something that might have been pride had they allowed themselves to feel it. Remember what we discussed, my father said as I prepared to leave. I will, I replied, the words deliberately ambiguous. At Aunt Catherine's apartment, Vanessa was waiting. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but she smiled when she saw me. Ready for your grand escape? She asked, helping me with the last of my bags. Almost, I said. But first, I need to tell you something. I explained my father's visit, his expectation that I would financially support the family, particularly her, once I became successful. They're already planning how to use you to control me, I finished. Vanessa's face hardened. They never stop, do they? No, I agreed, but we can. I outlined my plan, a way for both of us to break free. I would go to Harvard as planned, but I would also help Vanessa apply for late admission to a college near me. With Aunt Catherine's assistance, we could get her out from under our parents' influence as well. They'll cut me off completely, Vanessa warned. Let them, I replied. Between my scholarship, Aunt Catherine's savings, and part-time jobs, we can make it work. We'll be free. Vanessa hesitated, years of conditioning visible in her uncertainty. What if I'm not smart enough? What if I can't make it on my own? You can, I assured her, and you won't be on your own. We'll be together, equals at last. As we finalized our plan, a complication arose that we hadn't anticipated. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Your father and I are coming to Boston with you. We've booked a hotel for the week. We want to see where our investment is going. I showed the message to Vanessa and Aunt Catherine. They're going to try to establish a foothold, Aunt Catherine warned. Make connections at Harvard, ingratiate themselves with your professors and classmates. They'll turn your achievement into their social currency. She was right, and it threatened everything. Not just my fresh start, but Vanessa's potential escape as well. The moment called for decisive action, but with my departure just hours away, our carefully constructed plan seemed suddenly fragile, teetering on the edge of collapse. 10 years passed in a blur of achievement and growth. I graduated from Harvard with honors, completed law school at Columbia, and secured a position at Preston and Associates, one of Minneapolis's most prestigious law firms. At 36, I had made partner, the youngest in the firm's history. Vanessa's path had been rockier. Despite our plans, she had ultimately stayed behind, swayed by our parents' emotional manipulation and promises that they would support her educational aspirations when the time was right. That time never came. Instead, she entered a series of relationships with men our parents deemed promising, each ending in disappointment. Now she was a single mother of 2 children from different fathers, living in our parents' basement. her potential buried under the weight of their expectations. We had maintained sporadic contact over the years, mainly regarding the children, James, 7, and Evelyn, 4, whom I adored despite the distance our parents had fostered between us. From Vanessa's increasingly desperate messages, I knew things at home had deteriorated. Our father had taken early retirement due to health issues, and their financial situation was precarious. I wasn't surprised when my assistant announced unexpected visitors one Tuesday afternoon. Mr. and Mrs. Murder are here to see you. They don't have an appointment, but they insist it's urgent. I took a deep breath, straightened my designer suit, and nodded. Send them in. They entered my corner office with the tentative steps of people in unfamiliar territory. My mother's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the stress lines around her eyes. My father, once imposing, now leaned heavily on a cane, his confidence diminished with his health. Isabella, my mother began, attempting warmth. You look successful. I am, I confirmed, not offering them seats. What brings you here after all this time? My father cleared his throat. We need your help. The medical bills, the mortgage. We're facing bankruptcy. Vanessa can't work with the children, and we thought, given your position now. I studied them for a long moment, memories of their countless rejections, from the debutante ball to their dismissal of my academic achievements, flooding back with crystal clarity. I don't think so, I replied calmly. You know, it's just a matter of investment. It would be a waste of money. The color drained from my mother's face as her own words returned to haunt her. My father's hands trembled on his cane. That was different, he protested weakly. We were trying to be realistic about your prospects. And I'm being realistic about yours, I replied. You made it clear that family is about investment, not unconditional support. By your own metric, you're a poor investment now. But Vanessa and the children, my mother pleaded. Surely you don't want them to suffer. I moved to the window, looking out at the Minneapolis skyline. That's interesting. You never worried about my suffering. A heavy silence filled the office. 20 years of disparate treatment hung between us, undeniable in its impact. I turned back to face them. While you were spending thousands on Vanessa's gowns and cosmetic procedures, I was investing in my education. While you were parading her before potential husbands, I was building a career. The difference is that my investments yielded returns, and yours didn't. My father's shoulders slumped. We made mistakes, he admitted. But we're still your parents. Biology doesn't entitle you to the fruits of my labor, I said evenly. Especially when you actively tried to prevent me from achieving success. I walked to my desk and pressed the intercom. Patricia, please bring in the documents I prepared earlier. My assistant entered with a folder, which I took and opened deliberately. I won't be giving you money directly, I announced. Instead, I've established educational trust funds for James and Evelyn. I've also arranged for Vanessa to receive vocational training if she chooses. The children will have security and Vanessa will have opportunity. The one thing you never truly gave either of us. I handed them the documents. True parenting means developing a child's character and abilities, not just exploiting their appearance or achievements for your benefit. You failed us both, just in different ways. As they left my office, visibly shaken, I felt no triumph, only the quiet satisfaction of having finally broken the cycle. Through the window, I watched them shuffle to their modest car, their dreams of financial rescue shattered. Later that evening, I called Vanessa. They came to see you, didn't they? She asked immediately. Yes, I confirmed. I didn't give them what they wanted, but I've made arrangements for you and the children. Real opportunities, not empty promises. There was a long pause before she replied, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for not forgetting about us. About me. Never, I promised. We were both their daughters, even if they couldn't see our equal worth. As we talked into the night, rebuilding the bridge between us, I understood that the real investment had been the one I made in myself, not just financially, but in preserving my integrity and compassion despite everything. That was a return no balance sheet could ever quantify.